All right, hello. So I'm coming on to have a quick informal chat, right? And it's about IBT. So it's to try and explain all the ins and outs of it, what it is, what the categories are, how I go about it, what modules I have to do, and so on and so forth. Okay. So it's just to update basically the video I had up already with the bad sound. So indoors now, not in a nightclub, and just doing a video to explain everything there to you, you know. Um, so what is IBT? IBT is an initial basic training course, which is a mandatory course that must be completed before you ride a bike on Irish roads. Okay, so it's illegal to ride a bike um, since 2010 unless you got your IBT done. Okay, now the IBT only lasts 2 years once it's done, so you should get your test done in that time. Okay, if you fail to do that for whatever reason, okay, the IBT expires. So it's 2 years from the issue date of the learner. 2 years from the issue date of the IBT cert. The IBT expires. If that happens, okay, you're no longer meeting your legal requirements to ride a bike on the road. So therefore, you're no longer legally riding the bike. So any insurance policy or anything that you have on the bike, the requirements for you to have that insurance, one of them is that you have your IBT done and it's in date. So if it's out of date, then your insurance and all is nil and void. So just make sure that you're staying on top of it. What I always suggest is that you get your bike 6 months after the issue date, your learner permit, which is when you're entitled to apply for a test for the first time. You go ahead and you apply for a test. Okay, so that should come around then within the first year, because it's a bit of a waiting list. Depending on the centres that you go for, it can be longer or shorter. But make sure that you get it done within the first year, you know what I mean? And then you don't have to worry about the IBT anymore, and nobody be complaining about, oh, this is this and this is that. It's on you. Do your IBT 6 months after the issue date, your learner permit, provided you have the IBT done. Get onto the RSA website and apply for your test, and then go for the test. Okay? Once you pass the test, then you have your full license. It opens the world up to you, and you're in a far better situation. You know what I mean? So, I hope that explains IBT a little bit as to why you have to do it, okay? So the IBT itself falls into three categories, and so does the learner permit, the licensing. So if you're 16 to 17 years of age, you will be issued an A1 learner permit by the NDLS. Okay, that's all they can give you. Okay, so when you're an A1, then you have to do modules 1, 2, 3 and 4 of the IBT. Alright, so that's generally a 2-day course, provided people have the ability to make the progress necessary and meet the satisfactory standard on the training ground. But for safety reasons, the minimum hours is 16. The maximum hours is whatever it takes them to achieve what they have to achieve safely. Okay, so the majority of people, though, obviously get through within the 2 days, yeah? Okay, so an A2 then is anyone aged 18 to 23 falls into the A2 category. Okay, so an A2 does modules 1, 3 and 5 of the IBT. So you might say, why am I not doing 2 and 4? 5 is 2 and 4. It's just they have it laid out like that in the book, so as that basically there's one or two paragraphs missing from the 2 and 4 that's in 5. But we don't differentiate that with our students. The students get everything that they need because it's basically the same course. You know what I mean? So don't panic about that. So the A2, 1, 3 and 5, again done over 2 days, can be achieved within that time, but if it takes longer, it takes longer. Okay, safety always overrides everything, and you only get your IBT cert when you meet the satisfactory safe standard. Okay, so the A category then is anyone 24 or over will be issued an A category learner permit by the NDLS. Again, this is all just European directives. It falls into that, you know what I mean? So when you're an A learner permit holder, the IBT that you do is the same as the A2. It's 1, 3 and 5 is the modules that you have to complete, and it's done in 2 days over 18 hours, 9 hours a day, yeah? Okay, so the once you have that IBT done, you will be given a cert of satisfactory completion, and as I said already, that lasts for 2 years from the date that it's issued. Okay, so when you go away, then you can buy your bike, you can insure your bike, you can tax your bike. You must wear a helmet an L vest. You're not allowed to carry pillions. You're not allowed on motorways. And you're not allowed to leave the country of Ireland. So unfortunately that means that a learner rider in Ireland is not allowed into the north of Ireland because they fall under a different Road Traffic Act. Okay, so just be aware of that. You're not allowed into England. You're not allowed to leave the Republic of Ireland. Okay, so the modules then. So module 1 is a theory module, and that's done the morning of your first day. Okay, and that covers introduction to personal protective equipment, what it is, what the safety ratings are, and so on and so forth. And we give you a look at them and let you see what's involved so that you can go away then and buy sensibly yourself, you know, when it comes time. Then you're brought down to the bikes. You're given an introduction to the bike, so primary and secondary control introduction. Then you do your bike maintenance, your powders check. Then you do mounting, dismounting, walking alongside your bike, your stands, putting it on the main stand from the side, and then back to the side from the main. So a good introduction to the bike on that morning, and then you go into, in the afternoon, you go into your module 5 or module 2 and 4, whichever the case may be with your category. But that's where you start to learn how to pull away and stop. You start to learn how to do your slow ride exercise. You start to learn how to do your gear changes. You start doing your U-turn, your figure of 8, you're turning right at the junction, turning left at the junction. You're stopping, emergency adjustment of speed, your avoidance and so on, okay? So that's all done on the first day. So provided that that's achieved to a satisfactory standard, the second day then is your module 3, which covers the legal requirements, road and lane position, rear observation, mirror work, anticipation, reaction to other road users. So there's quite a bit in that. There's more than just that, but there's a fair bit in it. If you look up the IBT, I'll probably, if I can figure out how to put a picture up of the modules, I'll put it up there now. So the IBT then is completed then with the road ride, and the road ride with us is quite extensive. Okay, it can be anything but from 100 kilometers to 130 kilometers depending on the route that we take. Okay, so I hope that builds things a bit. And remember, if you're not understanding any of this, a phone call usually answers questions in any way. So you can always ring me on 086 222 8151 and I'll answer any questions that you have. And it doesn't cost anything to get advice off me. I'll just ring you back in the evening when I'm off the bike. We'll have a chat. You can go away, you can do what you have to do, and you can book with someone else if you want. I don't mind. I'd rather just be able to advise you correctly in the meantime, you know. So people do say to us, right, so what's direct access and what's progressive access? So direct access is anything you do as an initial learner. Okay, so your very first IBT course, that's direct access. Okay, so if you then, say for argument's sake, I'll go through the categories and how you do bits and pieces after that. But say for argument's sake, you're an A1 and you sit a test. So you have an A1 full license and you want to move up 2 years later, because you have to do progression after 2 years holding your full license. So say you wanted to move up after 2 years of holding a full A1 to A2, you would then do a progressive access. So progressive is anything from a full license to another full license without sitting a test. Okay, so think of it that way, you know. So the direct access that you do initially, right, if you're an A1, you have a couple of routes that you can take. Okay, so you're an A1 learner permit holder, you do your IBT in the A1, and just say for argument's sake, right, so you're 16, 2 years later you're going to be 18. You don't want to be stuck in a position where you can't ride on motorways, you can't leave Ireland, you can't carry a pillion, and you don't want to be wearing your L vest for the 2 years. So in that situation there, you would sit your test, and then that would open up all those things to you, right? Now, that's not advisable where I'm concerned, because well, it can be, right? But I'll explain why now in a second, right? So if you go from a full A1 to an A2 with progressive access, then that limits you, okay? Because you've used your progression. You can only progress once, okay? So I would always advise that you use your progressive access from A2 to A, and I'll explain why now. So say for argument's sake, you did do the full A1, you done your progressive 2 years later when you were 18, and you from a full A1 to a full A2, that's your progressive gone. So then you have to wait till you're 24. You'd have to apply for your learner permit when you're 24 for the A category. Then you'd have to do your IBT again, full IBT in the A category. and then you would have to sit your test again. So it brings in all that side of it again, right? So if you were to do your A1 and then 2 years later, this is on the IBT without sitting your test, 2 years later then you were to do your A2, you would just do a direct access module 5 onto your A2 because you hadn't sit in the test yet. So you do the direct access module 5 to get you onto the A2 bike. Then you would sit your A2 test. So you'd be a fully licensed rider, say at about 18 and a half years of age. Okay, this is the earliest possibility that it could happen, right? So your test happens around the time that you're 18 and a half. When you're 18 and a half, then 2 years after that, so now you're 20 and a half, you apply because you've held your license, full license A2 for 2 years. You can then apply for an A learner permit. So that's the youngest you can actually do it at, is 20 years of age. Okay, you'd be over 20, you'd be in between the 20 and 21. Okay, so then you would be able to do your progressive access to the A without having to sit a test again, but you would have to do a module 5 with an IBT instructor like myself, and you'd get your A off the back of that. Okay, so that's the earliest route that you could take to an A category for someone starting out at the very beginning of 16 A1 and then moving up through. Okay, he does have the option of, I want to have a full license in the A1, so he can do his A1 full license and that lifts his restrictions. But when it comes to when he turns 18, or when he holds that learner permit for 2 years, no, when he turns 18, he applies for his A2 learner permit. So once he has his A2 learner permit, he can do direct access module 5 to the A2, but that has him as a learner again, so all those restrictions come back in again. Okay, so he would then sit his test on the A2 as soon as possible, and when he passes that, he would then have a 2 year waiting period to get to his A. Okay, so it's the exact same time frame, just that's how you would have a full license, and then a progression to a full license. But he'd have to sit 2 tests. He'd have to sit the A1 test and the A2 test and then progress. Again, if you're falling into these areas at all and you need it explained a bit more, just give me a ring. Okay, there's no big deal. I'll explain it better to you. Okay, and you can ask any questions you have, because asking questions and getting the answers is how people process things and make sure that they're happy with how things are in their own head. Okay, so what is an A1? An A1 is a person that's, as I said, 16 to 17 years of age, and the bike itself, without going into the weights, I'm just going to keep it to the size and the kilowatts, right? The bike itself is no more than 11 kilowatts, and it's no more than 125 cc's. Okay, and that can be a manual or an automatic, makes no difference. Okay, but if you do your IBT on an automatic bike, you're stuck to an automatic bike. If you do it on a manual, you can ride either on, same as the car side of the house. So what is an A2 bike? An A2 bike is anything that's 12 kilowatts, so 1 kilowatt more than an A1, up to 35 kilowatts. So from 12 kilowatts to 35 kilowatts is what an A2 bike is, right? So if you were to wanted to ride a bike that had a power output of 12 to 35, you would have to have an A2 learner permit and you'd have to have an A2 IBT done, right? So for the bike to be suitable for IBT and for it to be suitable for a test, it has to be between 20 and 35 kilowatts. So just make sure when you're buying your bike, if you do plan on using it for your own test when the time comes, that it's between 20 and 35 kilowatts on the logbook when you're reading it. It's section P2. When you open the logbook, on the left hand page, right hand column, P2, make sure that the kilowatts is on it. If it's not, you can get a power cert because you'll need that for your test. But make sure that it's within your category suitable for test. So that's 20 to 35 where the A2 is concerned. Okay, so what is an A bike? Oh, sorry, on the A2s as well. Can an A2 bike be derived from an A? So A bikes being anything more than 35 kilowatts. Okay, so yeah, of course it can, but it has to be restricted back to no more than 35 kilowatts. Okay, and when you restrict it back, it can't be more than half its normal power. So say a bike, an A category bike is 70 kilowatts, and you restrict it back by half, which is 35, that's suitable as an A2 bike. Okay, but say the bike was 75 kilowatts, the original A category bike, and you restricted it back to 35. You restricted it back to more than half its normal power, so that's not an A bike, that's an A2 bike. You've actually gone outside your parameters. Okay, so again, where that's concerned, if you need information, just give me a ring. Okay, what is an A bike? So an A bike, as I said, is 36 and up. Okay, but what has it to be suitable for test? Okay, so an A bike suitable for test is a bike that is 50 kilowatts and more than 599 cc's. Okay, so 600cc bike, right? So it must be 600ccs at minimum, and it must be 50 kilowatts at minimum. Okay, there is a weight side of it as well. I haven't got it here in front of me, and just look at it as has to be 600ccs and it has to be 50 kilowatts or more. Okay, again, that has to be stated on your logbook, so make sure that you have it. If it's not on the logbook, go and get a power cert. Get it from a main dealer. Happy with that? And then you'll be able to use your own bike. Now, don't be tying yourself up in knots with bikes though. If you do need a bike, we do pre-test courses, and you can give me a shout and we'll supply the bike and everything, and it's not a major cost difference where the bike is concerned, right? So don't be panicking over bikes. Most people that come to us would have an A learner permit with an A IBT done, but during their learning phase they felt more comfortable buying a lesser bike, and that's what we would always say to you: buy with the bike that you can afford, and buy a bike that you're comfortable riding, to make sure that you're not afraid to bring it out, that you want to ride it, that you get out, you gain experience, that you gain your ability increases, and that you practice everything that you were taught in your IBT. Okay, so I think that explains it all now, in fairness. So I'm just looking through me. I have a list here just to try and make sure that I don't miss anything. Yeah, it's all there, right? So if you have any issues at all in your understanding of what is IBT, okay, just give me a ring, plain and simple. All right, and I will advise you. It doesn't matter whether you're in Galway and can't get to me. I'd still rather advise you in the right route that you have to take, and then you find an instructor down your area, you know what I mean? Or be in Cork or whatever. Just get the right advice from the people that know, and then do what you have to do yourself, you know what I mean? You can always contact your own instructors down that area, but instructors are very busy at the minute. You may find it difficult, okay? But I answer the phone any time of day at all. So usually it's in around 7 o'clock in the evening you'll get me most, because I'm off the bike then. I won't answer it when I'm on the bike. Okay. So that's it for now. I hope that explains IBT to you. And I'll talk to you all soon, hopefully. Okay. Bye bye bye.